friends, today's news from the Avdiivka direction isn't looking good. Unfortunately, Russian advancements and the complete seizure of Orlivka and Tonenke have been confirmed. What's more, the Russians have made serious progress across the fields towards Tonenke. While they've advanced about a mile and a half near Orlivka, they've managed to shift the front line by another 4 kilometers and 400 meters near Tonenke. As a result, the Russians have started to break through the fields towards Umansk. This isn't a fake out, so the General Staff of Ukraine confirmed this in official reports yesterday evening. So it's likely true. All the claims we heard from the Russians over the past few days have now been confirmed, albeit a few days later. So this means that if the occupiers manage to reach this village, they are essentially approaching Orlivka as initially planned. So their situation isn't very cheerful today. So battles continue in the Berdychi area, and the situation there is critical too. Semenivka remains under the control of the Ukrainian forces, but the Russians are bombarding it heavily. Additionally, the occupiers are attempting to break through near Pervomaisk, also across the fields, to create a summer encirclement for the village. So we are waiting to see how events unfold. However, there is a possibility that the Russians are preparing to break our defense lines, which are actively being built today, according to the Ukrainian forces.
When KAB/FAB 1000 is thrown at our positions, it seems that tectonic plates are moving. The Russians have already announced the serial production of the FAB 3000. A huge crater remains from a 1-ton bomb. The bomb stupidly grinds everything into porridge, houses, fortifications, etc. Well, if they start throwing 3-ton, I don't know what's going to happen after it. F-16. We are waiting for you. I hope we will wait.
Friends, as you can see, this situation is extremely challenging, and it seems that the Russians are genuinely preparing to break our defense lines. So today we desperately lack substantial support, and foreign publications are already writing that without assistance from the USA, Ukraine will perish.
Eventually, as the interceptors run out, the civilian population will be left defenseless. Imagine the sight of manned Russian bombers flying over Ukrainian cities and devastating them. The result would be a humanitarian catastrophe. Russia would inflict civilian casualties on a scale unseen in Europe since World War II, intentionally targeting schools, hospitals and residential buildings to break Ukraine's will. If you doubt it, just look at Russia's brutal targeting and massacre of civilians during its barbaric 2016 air campaign in Aleppo, Syria. A massive wave of refugees would begin fleeing the country, further demolishing the economy. While Ukraine would not likely fall this year, the conditions would be set for a Russian victory in 2025, just as, Republicans hope, Donald Trump takes office. So, Ukraine's catastrophic collapse could well happen on the GOP's watch, not Biden's. Imagine the outrage as stunned Americans watch Russian forces marching into Kiev, slaughtering and pillaging as they did in Bucha at the start of the war. Whom do Republicans think Americans would hold responsible for the atrocities playing out on their screens? Indeed, the political repercussions in many ways would be worse this time. At least in Afghanistan, Biden could argue that the time had come to pull U.S. troops out of harm's way. But in Ukraine, there are no U.S. troops in harm's way. Republicans would have abandoned Ukraine not to save American lives but to save money. That might not be as popular a decision as they think when Americans are seeing the lifeless bodies of Ukrainian women and children on their televisions.
But according to the latest statements from the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States Congress, voting will begin after Easter.
The U.S. Congress may vote on aid to Ukraine after the Easter holiday next month, says the chairman of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee Michael McCaul. The chairman of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul, said that Speaker Mike Johnson intends to put to a vote a bill that provides aid for Ukraine after Easter. It should be noted that Easter in the United States this year is celebrated on March 31st. Johnson's, edition, commitment is to put it, bill with aid for Ukraine, edition, on the floor after Easter. And we are working on this bill, McCaul said. When asked by a journalist whether there was a chance that the bill would be passed as early as April 9th, he said that he wanted the vote to take place as soon as possible. The situation in Ukraine is dire. If we lose in Ukraine like Afghanistan and let Putin take over Ukraine, and Moldova, Georgia, it will make the United States weaker, McCaul added.
So, it turns out that the vote for support will start at best in April, and whether there will be a positive result is completely unknown. So, friends, what do you think about such support? So, share your thoughts in the comments of how much longer we will have to defend under such difficult conditions. Let's continue. In the Marinka area, fighting continues as well. So 17 attacks were recorded in the past day. But it's happening that the occupiers couldn't establish themselves near the village of Konstantinivka and were pushed back to their former positions. So today, battles are taking place for Krasnohorivka, Orlivka, and Novomikhailivka. And the Ukrainian forces are doing everything to maintain the defense line unchanged. In the Bakhmut direction, 5 attacks were recorded in the areas of Klishivka, Bogdanivka, and Avdiivka. However, there is no information about new offensive actions near Ivanivsk. The Russians have claimed that this settlement is already under their control, but the Ukrainian forces hasn't yet confirmed this information. Although there were reports last night that tactical advances between Ivanivsk and Bogdanivka do exist, but we are still waiting for confirmation. In the Siversk direction, fighting continues in the area of Bilohorivka, but they haven't achieved any success here as before. However, further south, all attacks have ceased in the areas of Vesela and Rozdolivka, and the front line remains unchanged. So, success is also on the side of the Ukrainian forces here. In the direction of Kreminna, fighting near the settlements of Terny and Yampolivka didn't bring success to the Russians either, and today only shelling is reported. So there are no changes along the front line in this area as well. In the area of Svatove, shelling is also minimal, and after the attacks on Berestove, no activity is being observed here anymore. In the direction of Kupiansk, for the 3rd day in a row, the occupiers haven't carried out any offensive actions. Only shelling is reported, and there are no changes along the front line accordingly. Now, let's move on to the southern direction. So, in the area of Vuhledar, the main battles today are concentrated near Urozhaine. A large number of shelling is also reported. However, the Ukrainian forces continue to hold their defense and don't retreat from these settlements. Therefore, the struggle continues. In the Zaporizhia direction, the occupiers are attempting to storm Robotine and conducting shelling of frontline villages. 2 storm attempts were recorded here over the day, and both were unsuccessful for the Russians. Near Verbove, there have been no attacks for several days, so indicating a decrease in activity in this direction. But in the Kherson direction, shelling of the right bank continues. However, there have been no new offensive actions towards the village of Tonenke, and the situation remains unchanged. Although the Ukrainian forces have stated that maintaining the bridgehead comes at a very high cost.
The large flow of the river, the enemy's control of the approaches to the bridgehead, the use of enemy FPVs and all available means of firing at our boats, all these are the factors that make the logistics of the two banks of the Dnieper so complicated. For obvious reasons, rotation is extremely rare. Most fighters claim that it is the path from the right to the left bank that takes most of the lives of our defenders. Orcs fly day and night, there is not even a small window to creak at least a little somewhere.
And that's all from me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.